Hello and welcome to this tactical analysis of the Manchester United versus Chelsea match in the Women's Super League. We're going to have a look at Manchester United's 2-4 or 2-3 build-up versus Chelsea's 4-3-3 or 3-4-3 press, the movement of Manchester United's forwards, especially TuneIn, Russo and Paris. And for Chelsea, we're going to focus on how they were building up through that left-hand side, especially Kerr's movement and the system that they used to release a Chelsea player in that left-hand side channel. Okay, so for me, this is a really great angle to see how Chelsea built up. So whilst they technically are playing a back three with Buchanan, Bright and Eriksson as their three centre-backs, in deep build-up, Eriksson would move out into this left-back position so that then they could play instead a 2-4 shape. This was against Manchester United's 4-2-3-1. Nikita Paris receiving treatment off screen. So these lines are just illustrative. On this occasion, Eriksson is able to drive beyond Paris here and force the Manchester United backline to retreat. Alternatively, they could have whoever the forward is in this space, so it could on occasion be Harder, but on this occasion it's Wrighton, actually drop off. This will draw the Manchester United fullback with her, creating a 1v1 for Kerr versus Letitia, the centre-back, in this wide space. And with Kerr being faster than most defenders and even forwards in the WSL, she can then gain an advantage running beyond the centre-back and then whipping across for the other forwards looking to get into the box. This was a constant throughout the game. Instead of playing it down the line, Eriksson chooses to go more direct into Kerr. And as mentioned, she's just light years faster than Letitia here. And we're starting to see that advantage, which will allow her to be able to whip in a ball for, in this case, Harder or maybe James. Kerr's pace is a key problem that every WSL side that faces Chelsea has to contend with. And it only ramps up as Chelsea typically score first, forcing the other side into positioning their defence more aggressively, their midfielders committing higher up the pitch, etc., leaving more space for Kerr to be able to run into where already she was at an advantage. Fortunately for Manchester United, Turner and Torres Dutia are able to combine here and defend the cross. However, I want you to just note the space between the Manchester United defenders and the midfield. This space here is a serious problem just because it means if on another occasion these attackers, Wrighton and James, are closer, they will actually pose a threat to Manchester United, which we see happen for James's goal later in the game, where even though the Manchester United players technically have enough here versus the Chelsea players, they need to communicate with their midfielders as well as amongst themselves to try and also half cover the cutback in here as well. Moving on, Manchester United look to try and build up in the left-hand space with Galton here dropping deeper to try and link with the rest of the Manchester United defence. Manchester United being set up in their typical 2-4 shape where they have Hayley, Ladd and Katie Zellem as the holding midfielders versus Chelsea's 4-3-3/3-4-3 shape where you have Ingle as your holding midfielder and then technically Cuthbert is with Ingle as the second centre midfielder, but she will typically try and push higher up and try and put pressure on the likes of Katie Zellem. And then also James will be in that three in midfield too, with Wrighton, Harder and Kerr kind of leading the line. But that shape depends on where Manchester United have the ball, because as in this scenario where Manchester United have it on their left-hand side, the Chelsea near-sided fullback in this 4-3-3 shape, so in this case Liam Charles, will push up in essence to create that 3-4-3. And if Manchester United had the ball on their right-hand side, then Eriksson would push up. So you'd again get that 3-4-3 shape. They're just trying to block the wide space where Manchester United would like to progress the ball and then preferably try and pin Manchester United against the touchline. Anyway, back to Manchester United. Galton here is the one that's dropped, but typically the players who dropped between the lines to receive for Manchester United were Toon and Paris. Anyway, following on from this, we've got a throw-in with the typical targets for throw-ins being Toon and Russo, mostly looking to just play 1-2s. Manchester United are forced to retreat, and again they fall into that 2-4 shape. Later in the game, as Manchester United try to combat the fact that their forwards are being tracked in these wide spaces, making it difficult for them to be able to turn and play it in for whoever was on the last shoulder, which was typically Galton, Manchester United had Katie Zellem drop into a left-back position because she'd be more difficult to press from there, and then she can play longer balls for those forwards. Manchester United being forced into retreating was a constant in this game. That became a problem problem because Millie Turner, as well as some other players too, ended up playing some poor passes, but Millie Turner especially made 2 key errors passing out the back. And against Chelsea, you simply cannot do that. And so we see here Manchester United retreating again, losing or ceding ground bit by bit, eventually here leading to Chelsea pressing against this left-hand side touchline. But fortunately, Blundell is able to drive back inside and take advantage of the fact that given the shape of Chelsea's press, there is a far side centre-back free and also a ton of space for Manchester United to take advantage of. And so Manchester United try and take advantage of the space given to them by beating the Chelsea press, by switching it out here into Thorstatier. And then, just as we mentioned, the 2 players looking to play between the lines for Manchester United, Nikita Paris and Toon, are between the lines, with the other forwards looking to run in behind, forcing the Chelsea defence into retreating. Unfortunately, Thorstatier's pass poor and Manchester United's attack breakdown. Okay, moving on to the 38th minute, Manchester United building up deep. We have Paris or Toon dropping between the lines to try and link. On this occasion, Paris receives straight from the goalkeeper rather than the defenders. But just as we saw in the previous scenario when Liam Charles tracked Galton dropping, we now have the far-sided fullback in this 4-3-3, Eriksen, tracking Paris and forcing her into playing the ball backwards. And so Manchester United end up back in their own defensive third in that 2-4 shape again. Okay, here Manchester United have a slight variation on their 2-4 build-up, where instead of both Ladd and Zellum in a line, we now have Ladd higher up the pitch, which creates potential problems for this Chelsea press because Ingle is trying to follow the ball and she'll want to be more near side to wherever the ball is, kind of leaving this space to potentially be exposed by whichever of Ladd or Zellum is here in this space. Okay, so we can see there Ingle, as we said, moving towards the near side. Seeing Liam Charles, who's tracked Galton, who dropped. Cuthbert here was able to get close enough to Zellum to be able to actually intercept the ball, but Zellum, in kind of colliding with Cuthbert here, actually knocks the ball forwards, allowing Manchester United to retain possession, eventually leading to Paris picking up the ball between the lines in that space that we mentioned, kind of in the shadow, in the blind spot of Ingle. And this is part of the reason why Eriksen and Liam Charles were always tracking their forwards dropping, to prevent Manchester United forwards being able to turn into this space and then have other Manchester United forwards running in behind. Eventually the attack culminates in Paris playing a really nice pass into this left-hand side channel for Toon, but unfortunately Toon is just offside. This again is a Manchester United build-up, but it shows the initial parts of what could become counter-attacks. So we see here Russo playing as the focal point, tracked by Millie Bright. We've got Eriksen dropping off as she tracked Paris. On Eriksen winning the ball from Russo, she immediately plays it up the line into Wrighton. You can see already Harder here looking to bend her run, looking to try and maybe get into a counter-attacking position, take advantage of the fact that Hannah Blundell here, if Guru Wrighton is able to win possession, will slightly have exposed Letitia here. Fortunately for United, Blundell is able to win possession, and then Toon and Russo are able to combine in this right-hand side. Pulling out or running into the right-hand side channel was something that Russo loved to do in this game. And then far side, just notice Galton playing on the shoulders of the last player. She was a lot less involved in the build-up play and was always poised, far post, threatening in behind, keeping the Chelsea defence honest. After a bit of head tennis, Harder is able to win the ball back and looks to try and combine with Wrighton to try and start a counter-attack in this left-hand side channel. This being against Manchester United's counter-press. We've got Hayley Ladd here looking to put a bit of pressure on Wrighton. Thursday pointing that James is potentially free. Got Toon coming across here to put pressure on Bright. Fortunately for United, again, another successful counter press. And then from there, she looks to cross to the back post again for Galton, who this time contests the ball unfairly. Okay, so later in the game, this is 74th minute, Manchester United are behind. They're still looking to build up in that 2-3, 2-4 kind of shape deep. At this point, we've got Galton moved to left back with Thorstatier at right back after Blundell's injury. Galton was expected to overlap or position as a left winger in possession for Manchester United, whereas Staniforth would come inside to play as more of a number 8. So you can see here with Galton already pushing up on that left hand side. We've got Zellum pushing out into that left back position. and Hayley Ladd retaining that holding midfield position. It's difficult to say whether it's a 4-3-3 or 4-1-4-1 just because near side forward for Chelsea pushes higher, almost creating a 3. Regardless, Manchester United try and pass it around to their right-hand side. I say throughout most of the game, constantly looking to attack that right-hand side. On this occasion, Paris has come inside, and so Ingle pressurizes her rather than Eriksen. And Lauren James, she's the one who's pressurizing the fullback. And as we can see here, the Chelsea press is narrowing towards this touchline. Firstly, whilst you can't see her, Galton's actually high up on this left-hand side. Staniforth has come inside into a central position, and then Roos is half threatening him behind. And we've got Paris moving from that position where she drops to try and link the defensive midfield for Manchester United. She's now trying to get back into a more threatening, more attacking position. Staniforth and Toon looking to play make. Staniforth drops from between the line to link with Katie Zellum and pass here into Hayley Ladd. Important to mention here that the pressure from Ingle as well as Kerr dropping prevents Manchester United being able to expose Chelsea in that space between the lines, and again force Manchester United to retreat all the way back to Manchester United's 2-3 shape. And with that, thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, maybe sharing on social media. If you're a fan of Women's Super League or Women's Champions League, please have a look at our playlists. And with that, we're out.